on Facebook already.
So I don't need to be double live?
No, it's fine when you being double live. Just
There's no need for it. It's okay up there, big.
you know. The KXPS logo got stuck underneath it, so it was.
Ooh, that's not a good thing. Thank you. You got magic hands.
And then what's this one?
Yarn. What are we doing?
I'm making it so the camera is level.
Thank you.
There we go.
What are we doing? View layout. Oh, view 1. 1 to 1. And
And then it'll say which one is it? This one and this
Yeah.
one. Okay.
that's
Oh,
it. It's
yeah.
okay. Now we got that's. Let me get going over here, transferring these shows to their rightful place. Mooah. No, we put them on file once they're recorded, everybody. Got some radio engineering action going on here in the studio, here in the John Moriarty studio. Wow, okay.
So it's just gonna.
That was a 2-hour show, I guess it was already halfway there. Bam. Goody. What the heck? That's blank. How could it be 30 minutes of nothing? Oh, that's entitled MM 2017. Yeah. Oh, that's up there. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna close this one. Alrighty, folks. Yeah, Richard back, and we're getting things going here, doing a few chores, putting a few things away, so to speak, and we got 7:06 here at thevoiceofstockton.org. Got a good show coming up for you. Going to take a look into justice issues, environment, and let's get going here and get you some news and that you can take with you and makes for a happier life. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh boy, I hate to have this stuff on a short leash. It's getting wore out. We got a mouse that's, well, yeah, it's on too short. There we go. That's a little bit better. Boy, that's coming through very well. And get a delete up here for the sound. -24. Bam. Saturday news. We're about to begin. Let the show begin. Alrighty, bam. Good evening, Richard Slezak here. It's Saturday Evening News. It's 7:08 p.m. here in Stockton, California, and we, as is our wont, we bring you Connections, our own little local publication filled with fine stories. Pick one up right here at 231 West Bedford Road, and also other places around town, and you will be informed. We encourage you to read newspapers as you can daily. Be informed, makes you a better citizen, a wiser person. Your marriage will last longer. You'll know how to govern your country, and hopefully your children will love you too. So, Trump just suffered a big defeat on the environment. This was about a month and a half ago. Senate narrowly rejected GOP effort to repeal an Obama-era regulation limiting methane emissions on public lands. There was a May 11th deadline to overturn a number of Obama-era regulations through a simple majority vote in Congress. That's the Congressional Review Act. The oil and gas industry, guess what? They can you believe it? They lobbied hard for Congress to use the Congressional Review Act, also known as the CRA, to repeal the Department of Interior's methane rule. Now, these fine oil and gas exploration and extraction firms, they have to upgrade their equipment and monitor to prevent venting and leaking of methane. Well, number one, you don't want to vent it. It's got a value. There's a market for methane. You don't want to lose it. You don't want to torch it. You want to contain it. Any hydrocarbon coming out of the ground has, a monetary value. So this only makes good sense. But the rule also restricts a practice known as flaring. Now, the leaks get burned. They burn off excess gas. Well, why can't that go through pipes to stoves? It could. It's just a matter of constructing up your field. You're dealing with fluids, both gaseous and liquid. Deal with them in a responsible manner. Now, the House passed a resolution to repeal the methane rule in February. Why? It took plant life starting as early as 2,800,000,000 years ago during an intense ice age. 1 billion years to clear the methane out of the atmosphere. There was a lot of methane. Well, plants ate it up. Hey, this is, all you got to do is open those pores. That methane pours in. Just, hey, we're going to gobble this stuff up, man. We like this. No, the planet wasn't inhabitable when there was all that methane in the air. Thank you, plants. And what does man do? He turns around, digs up the remains of the plants and burns it. That's called digging up coal. Now, or hydrocarbon of any kind. A mineral hydrocarbon. Now, it's a bill stalled in the Senate. Republicans expressed concern that such a bill would prevent the government from enacting substantially similar regulations in the future. Methane leaks are a safety hazard, a driver of climate change, a waste of natural gas. It would, to undo the rule, would have permanently handicapped efforts to control methane. It faced its final defeat in a 51-49 vote. Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and John McCain joined every Democrat. Notice 51 minus 3 equals 48, and there's 48 Democrats in the Senate, in opposing the bill. Lindsey expressed reservations about using the Congressional Review Act, calling it too blunt an instrument in this case, And Senator Susan Collins of Maine broke with her party on some environmental votes in the past. John McCain had met briefly with Gwen Lachelt, a La Plata County commissioner in Colorado who helped develop the rule, and flew to Washington, D.C. to make a last-ditch attempt to save it. You know, he was a graduate of Annapolis, and they do teach science there. You know, it's like one of the best undergraduate science schools on the planet. So's Annapolis, and so's the Air Force Academy in West Point. You know, you graduate from those, you know. I mean, if you go to, I'd like a master's degree. Where'd you go? West Point. You know, do you know how to learn? A wee tad, you know. And so, you know, not everybody that comes out of there is a genius by no extent, but the educations are equivalent to the Princeton, the Ivy League schools, every bit the equivalent. So it's understandable. Once in a while, Senator McCain says, "No, you guys are nuts," walks away from him and, you know, votes with wisdom. The good senator from Arizona appeared to be arguing with his Republican colleagues, including Senate Majority Whip John Cornyn of Texas, John Brasso, Wyoming, just moments before his no vote. Now, the Trumpetorian wanted Congress to send as many CRA repeal bills as possible to El Trumpolian's desk, and Congress has used the law 13 times to repeal Obama-era regulations, including several rules that were loathed by the oil and gas and coal industries. Donald John can still weaken or roll back the government's limits on methane emissions, although that would we'll have to go through the agency's formal rulemaking process and could take years. Now, the San Juan Basin, near where La Plata County Commissioner Gwen Lachelt lives, as she notes, under the largest methane cloud in the country. If the methane rule goes away, we have no way to address that pollution. Yo! Yeah. Okay. Time we getting to have here. And it is 7:17 p.m. And we did it a start time at 7:08. Like to keep track of these things for you. And yeah, we got cameras pointed all around. I'm going to have to do a move around here. You kind of stretch my legs here for a moment. Kind of mosey on over here to the fancy table. And maybe point the camera this way and relax a spell. Now, you know, we're trying to get through this here fine newspaper on here on our weekly shows. I'd like to share with you what's going on. This is an excellent source of knowledge. So, you know, it's a pleasure to whoop, hey, cameras, look at me. I'm over here now. Now, according to my note pages here, did I skip something? Because I don't want to skip nothing. Oh, yowzer. Now, here's an article on the $110 billion deal that El Trumpo made. If that camera's not going to do some moving around, I'm just going to go back here where people can see me. And so, anyways, the arms deal with the House of Saud that has ruled Arabia since 1803. And they went in there, they did, you know, since Saudi Arabia is pretty much only Mohammedan. They had a preacher go along with them, Islamic preacher, Wahhabi, and he brought a hardcore brand of Sunni Islam with him. And it was, it's the equivalent of a denomination within Sunni Islam, but it's hammered out a position, see, since Islam has some curious aspects about it as compared to Christianity or Judaism, that's how they've helped govern the country. 719 here at the Voice of Stockton. And this is by Akbar Shahid Ahmed. It came off of the reader-supported news.org, and comments that cannot continue to rely on the Saudi assurances that they'll comply with international law and agreements concerning the U.S. origin equipment. Michael Newton, he teaches at Vanderbilt University, a law school. My brother went there. Former military judge advocate general, sent a letter to the full Senate by human rights arm. Excuse me. He cited multiple credible reports of recurring and highly questionable airstrikes by the Saudi military that have killed civilians. 23-page assessment, the good probably former colonel. Newton said the strikes have continued even after Saudi units received training and equipment to reduce civilian casualties. Continued sale of arms to Saudi Arabia, and specifically of arms used in airstrikes, should not be presumed to be permissible under the two statutes covering most sales of military equipment by the U.S. government to foreign nations. The good, probably former colonel, but Michael Newton, Judge Advocate General officer, stated. Continuing. Shouldn't be available to Saudi Arabia until the Saudi and U.S. governments offer new certifications to prove that the Saudis are following the law and using U.S. weaponry. Arms package includes tanks, artillery, ships, helicopters, missile defense systems, and cybersecurity technology worth almost $110 billion. The Trump administration is presenting it as a major accomplishment, although the Obama administration committed to many elements of the package. They built rapport, that is, Jared and Donald, with Saudi Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and personally intervened with weapons manufacturer Lockheed Martin to get the Saudis a better deal. Oh, so reports the New York Times. I read about them when I was a child in the book The Liberal Media. The New York Times has not been liked by the Republican Party for 50 years. Man, wow. That Army officer, I don't know about him. And whoever wrote this, Akbar, oh man, there you go. Bar Association Center for Human Rights requested the assessment after receiving several congressional inquiries about the legality of continued sale to the Saudis. Senators skeptical of the Saudi campaign in Yemen unsuccessfully tried to block a $1,150 million arms transfer last fall. Legal analysis suggests they should try it again. Chris Murphy, Democratic Senator of Connecticut, architect of last year's effort, blasted the deal on the Huffington Post. Quote, Saudi Arabia is an important friend and partner of the United States. But if they are still a deeply imperfect friend, $110 billion in weapons will exacerbate, not ameliorate, those imperfections. Now, the U.S. and now Saudi Arabia and several other countries have been in a war in Yemen for 2 years, fighting Iranian-backed militants who've taken over much of the country. That coalition's been accused of war crimes, violations, deaths of thousands of civilians in the Arab world's poorest country. The United Nations has reported nearly 5,000 deaths have occurred. And we're looking at some things here. Good. Things are fine. American aerial refueling. Airstrikes as single largest cause of civilian casualties during various periods in the conflict. Actual toll is likely far higher. And yes, American aerial refueling? They share a common border. Why don't you just land and refuel? Oh, strange. Oh, well, training purposes, that's part of it as well. Naval blockades there, too. Interferes with aid deliveries by pro-Iranian militants. That's caused a major humanitarian crisis. 19 million Yemenis are in need of aid, according to the UN. A famine may soon be declared. Now, last December, the Obama administration did halt some of those war weaponry going over there, some arms transfers, because they attacked a funeral, killed a bunch of people. Now, the Barack approved the record-breaking $115 billion in arms sales to the Saudis during his time in office. The country's leaders frequently claimed he abandoned them because of his nuclear diplomacy with Iran and reluctance to strongly intervene in Syria. Trump's team is speaking of the deal as a sign of renewed commitment to the longtime U.S. partner, even though he often criticized the Saudis on the campaign trail. Now, Michael Newton, our Judge Advocate General, former, charged the Saudi military strikes have deliberately targeted markets and hospitals, with few of any enemy combatants were located. Saudi Arabia does a lot of human rights violating. Failure to hold military officers accountable as illegal use of cluster munitions as justifying an immediate end of U.S. military support. U.S. personnel or contractors could be vulnerable under international humanitarian law if the military sales continue, according to Michael Newton. The arms could be used in an anticipated Saudi assault on the Yemeni port of Hodeidah, which would have a devastating impact on millions. And Ted Lieu, one of our local congressmen over around La Honda, has suggested that such prosecution is possible. There have been private efforts to improve the humanitarian situation in Yemen. Trump administration has not expressed much public concern about the Saudis' conduct in the conflict. It's loudly cheered the kingdom and chosen it as the site for Trump's first foreign visit, which the Saudis are promoting as an epoch-defying moment. Now, expanding opportunities for American companies in the region is also part of Trump's thing, potentially supporting tens of thousands of new jobs in the United States. Statement by the State Department did not mention the U.S. and Saudi role in the Yemen war. Rex Tillerson, a month ago, said continued U.S. arms transfers were meant to help Saudi actions in Yemen. Despite war crimes, allegations, and lawmakers' vocal complaints, Saudi Foreign Minister Abul al-Jaber said, there are many who would try to find gaps between the policy of the United States and that of Saudi Arabia, but they will never succeed. The position of President Trump and that of Congress is completely aligned with that of Saudi Arabia. We agree on Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Yemen. Our relationship is on an upward trajectory. Woo! Ain't that sweetness to your ears? We got 7:30 p.m. here at the Voice of Stockton. Yo, 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 not good. Not good. Well, I am going to dodge out for a second. As you can see, it's a runny nose. Be right back.
It's going to be 5,000. Then a week later, this is going to be 10,000. And then a week later, oh yeah, we got the numbers back. This is going to be 15,000 people.
Actually, I have a better one. Bump. Bump is that household name. Velvet Eye. Velvet has history. History. Everyone knows that name, knows where it's from. It started? Yeah, it started what? It started in Minnesota for some of their health. It was a branch off of Excess. Then it went to the Bay Area and was literally held on boats. They would come to like kind of our point. They had a stage built like that, and the boats would surround and they played with music and parties and all that. Then the owners moved and they moved local here. They started doing more than Excess again, more Excess food on that pump and now it's up. Let me know that everyone knows that this year they already knew that this is probably the last bump they're gonna have. And that's a probably.
Pardon that rude interruption. And we're back and got some paper towel action. And again, oh wow. Let me see if I can snapshot photo, record setup, playback, PTZ. I'm going to get zoom sequence. PIP view 4. Now, I don't know what PIP is going to do. It might do something, but we'll hang and that's the wrong one. System setup. Oop. Yeah. Oh well. Wait a minute. I think maybe if we go over here, wait a minute, and maybe down here. Damn. I don't know what the heck's going on. Woo! Yeah. Ah. Oh, far out. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. That, what the heck? Streaming live, Facebook, Voice of Stockton. That's funny. One's kind of stuck and the other is still alive-y. Oh well. Here we go. We're back. I had a terrible run there. Uh-oh. Let's just get these down. Yeah. I'll put that one over there, and I'll get this one out and going. Now we can go forward. And we'll take that one around. I need to be up and down so I can have a good eye on the computers. And we're back with our favorite publication. Yeah, it was good to share that article with you. I was wondering about that too. That article brought out that that's a long-standing deal. It's not all of a sudden. So we continue to march. And got a fine article here on page 12 of forests. Forests are good. They're the lungs of the earth. And removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing carbon for more than 300 million years. And we release that stored carbon to the atmosphere when we cut down and burn trees. 1/3 of all carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere from human activities have come from deforestation. We need to rapidly reduce global emissions from fossil fuels, biofuels, deforestation, and wetland and agricultural soils. We need to accelerate the removal of carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere. And this is from The Conversation US at theconversation.com, written by William Moomaw. And now, if we restore degraded U.S. forests and soils, reduce logging and unsustainable uses of wood, we can increase the rate at which our forests remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and ensure that it will remain stored in healthy forests. Goes into the Paris Climate Conference of 2015 and recognizes that forests play an important role in meeting climate goals by removing carbon dioxide. Now, Ronald Reagan said that trees pollute. Well, yeah, they do take in a lot of carbon dioxide, but they release a little. So where are we at? They take in a lot, but then they release a little. So, but they take in and not release that much, and they only release that much. So they take in a whole lot more than they release. So Ronnie, they only pollute a little bit. Whereas animals, well, we don't store carbon dioxide. We do to a certain extent. You know, there's a lot of carbon in our bodies. You know, it's within molecules. We don't have a lot, but, you know, there is carbon, you know, as it said on Star Trek. We are a carbon-based life form, not a silicon-based life form, but theoretically there can be silicon-based life. Why? Because it's the outside edge of it, the electron cloud on its outside edge is the same as that of carbon. So continuing. The agreement calls for steps only to protect and restore tropical forests. Now, the tropical forests, their emissions are from logging and forest clearing, would rank them as the world's third largest source behind China and the United States. Activities having serious and little recognized impact in the United States. U.S. forest growth each year removes an amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere equal to 11 to 13% of our fossil fuel emissions. This is only about half of the average carbon uptake by forests worldwide. U.S. forests are much less effective at capturing and storing carbon relative to our fossil fuel emissions than forests globally. Well, we import a lot of oil and we make a lot of our own because of fracturing. Therefore, we take, we're far ahead. It's tough for the forest to keep up here because we just burn so much oil. And we have been doing that. Now it's a little less per mile vehicle traveled than it was back in the, as the years have come along compared to the 1960s and 50s. Cars do get better mileage, so the actual passenger miles, the freight mile per mile, is better than it was then. The greatest contribution to this gap is logging. We are cutting trees in the U.S. at a rate that has reduced the carbon storage potential of U.S. forests by 42% of its potential. Recent satellite images show that the southeastern United States has the highest forest. Back in 17th century, forest covered the eastern and northern portion of North America. By late 1800s, 85 to 90% of these forests had been cut down. That is east of the Mississippi. 1% of original intact old-growth forest remains in the lower 48 states. Regrowth now covers 62% of areas that originally were forested, and commercial and tree plantations cover an additional 8%. So 72% of the originally forested land is still forested. The tree plantations grow rapidly, trees on tree plantations, but are harvested frequently and are retained very little soil carbon. As a result, they store less carbon than natural forests. We're logging our forest at a significant rate. Timber harvesting in U.S. forests currently releases more carbon dioxide annually than fossil fuel emissions from the residential and commercial sectors combined. Wow. Harvests support a large wood and paper products industry. U.S. produces about 28% of the world's wood pulp and 17% of timber logs, more than any other country in the world. Leading producer of wood pellets and wood chips for the growing forestry bioenergy sector. Whee! Burning wood in various forms of energy at home and abroad. Continuing. Forest bioenergy is widely considered a renewable fuel source. It is not a low-carbon energy source. Bioenergy produces as much carbon as coal per unit of heat released. Burning wood in power plants to generate electricity is typically 50% more carbon-intensive than coal-fired generation per unit of electricity produced. Proponents assert it's carbon neutral because new trees' growth somewhere now or in the future removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and offsets carbon emissions when biofuels are burned. Panel on climate change. Bioenergy is as carbon intensive as fossil fuels. European Union and many U.S. states classify biomass as a zero carbon energy source like wind and solar power. In the European Union, renewable energy comes from bioenergy, that is 60%. United Kingdom is ending its use of coal for electricity, but is replacing coal with wood pellets imported from the southeast United States. It doesn't make the wholest lottest of sense. It doesn't make economic sense to import 8 million tons of wood pellets yearly across the Atlantic. British government has provided over $1 billion in annual subsidies to utilities to pay the cost of pellet production and transport. They're subsidizing an import. Under climate accounting rules, emissions from burning wood for energy are counted as coming from land use change, that is, harvesting trees. The United Kingdom is outsourcing carbon emission from its wood-fired plants to the United States, and U.S. forest products industry and UK power companies are profiting from activities that have serious harmful impacts on the Earth's climate. Forests prevent flooding, provide natural filtration for drinking water, support wildlife, moderate local temperature extremes, and provide a storehouse of scientific knowledge, cultural values, and recreation opportunities. We need a carbon accounting system that accurately reflects flows of carbon between the biosphere and atmosphere. Coming from energy production are bioenergy emissions rather than as a land use change. Forest management, these systems on sound ecological basis rather than as economic growth-oriented businesses. Yes. Value the multiple ecosystem services that forests provide. One way to do this is to pay landowners for maintaining standing forests instead of only subsidizing logging for timber, fiber, or fuel. There's also the argument of controlled burns. But that's a whole other article. Because ideally what it leads to is the burning of grasses as they've dried out. But you catch it at such a time that it doesn't catch the trees on fire. And generations ago, that's what the natives did. And there were 10 million oak trees in California. Well, they did fine. What the natives would, and the manzanita and various small trees and shrubs, would survive the grass burns. Whereas, and it burned off the dry grass that hadn't been eaten up by herbivores, by deer, and especially, and goats and whatever else. And I don't. Natives have some. I don't think they had sheep until the Spaniards arrived. Didn't drive any across the Bering Strait. And all righty, what time we getting to have here? Let me take a little trip over to Computerville. Computerville, looking at Radio DJ, and we got 747, and the sound waves are looking fine on the audition, and the camera has been moving around, although that looks to be set. Let me just get this out of the way. I could use I'm not sure if it's going out as a set picture or not, but the folks, we're just going to do a little bit of engineering here. See, I'm doing fine over. I just want to on the XSplit system, and now we got a live shot going. Thank you, Donovan. And it's good that there's other people here this evening, and now we're back to a live shot. That's about 20 minutes off. Boom. Oh boy. All righty. 747. we did the ND to that, and we're gonna, we want to put it, there is a time limit. Man's got to know his limitations, as Clint Eastwood said, and Dirty Harry, and I think in Magnum Force as well. So, Eco News in the Trump era. This is from Natural Resources Defense Council. They got it's by Brian Palmer, and NRDC is running weekly summaries of the new administration's environmental actions. And here are some selected stories. One's titled Unfit, Good Budget News, Really. Third one, Regulatory Certainty, So Important. Most disqualified of all gets appointed, and Talking Dirty. And energy efficiency and renewable energy, and that's an office within the Department of Energy. Its mission is to create and sustain American leadership in the transition to a global clean energy economy. Strong and prosperous America powered by clean, affordable, and secure energy. Daniel Simmons, the man Trump just appointed to run the ERE, E-E-R-E, on keeping climate change within the 2 degrees Celsius threat, quote, the economic damages incurred achieving that goal would be greater than the damage caused by a warming world. Question number 2, on green energy economy, renewable jobs are expensive jobs. Question number 3, to Daniel Simmons, on federal support to help farmers install solar panels. Quote, the last thing we need is the federal government injecting itself into the system. Here in California, we get 27% of our electricity from renewables. Mr. Simmons is best known as an itinerant witness against clean energy at public hearings. His favorite trope is bringing up a thoroughly debunked study that suggested at least 2 jobs were destroyed in Spain for every job created in green energy. Daniel and his allies touted the study so aggressively, the government of Spain took an extraordinary step. They wrote the U.S. Congress to explain why the study was flawed and pointed out other studies showed the enormous economic benefits of Spain's green economy. And then good budget news, really. U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has suffered only a 1% loss in this week's congressional funding deal, rather than the enormous 31% reduction President Trump wanted. Preserved, in some cases enlarged, critical priorities like Advanced Research Program, which develops next-generation ideas for green energy and other technologies. The Koch brothers weren't happy. Through a spokesman, they called it an extension of the status quo. There's a reason that promoting renewable energy is the status quo. 3/4 of Americans support the shift to renewable energy, a number that has been rising steadily over the past 4 years. Republican support for alternative energy is now over 50%. And 60% of Americans want the Environmental Protection Agency to safeguard environmental health preserved or strengthened. Blueprint for how congressional deal makers sideline or bloviating commander-in-chief. And Chuck Schumer said, we were sort of a united front, Republicans and Democrats, opposed to Trump. He told the New York Times. that New York Times again, you know. It's quoted in here, so I'm giving you fair warning. Budget analysis, Stan Collender told Bloomberg what Congress is quickly learning is let the president talk as much as he wants, but ultimately we are going to present him with a bill he is either going to veto or not. Now we get to why, oh my, down in Bakersfield, field workers smelled noxious odor blowing in from a nearby orchard. They became nauseated and vomited, and 5 sought medical attention. Oh, it's just the pesticide chlorpyrifos. Yeah, oh boy, that sounds delicious. Hey, come and get your chlorpyrifos. Chlorpyrifos. Hey, let's get some chlorpyrifos. 7:55 p.m. here at the voiceofstockton.org. Richard Slezak bringing you the Saturday evening news. Yeah. Chlorpyrifos. Yeah. Oh, man, sounds delicious. Yeah, it won't hurt you. It's just chlorpyrifos. Scientists have been worried about this stuff for decades. It's pesticide. It's dangerous in large doses. Epidemiological studies suggest even smaller amounts raise developmental concerns for children. Columbia University looked at the pesticides level in umbilical cord blood found in chlorpyrifos exposure, like down in Bakersfield among field workers. You know, they might be living there out on near the field or in town or one of them little farm labor camps, and here comes a cloud of it. Ain't gonna hurt you. Yeah, right. Oh my, umbilical cord blood found in chlorpyrifos exposure to be associated with slower fetal and early childhood growth. EPA banned residential use in 2001 and was set to ban it entirely. Then came Trump. Boom, 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 boom. Scott Pruitt. Ain't gonna hurt you. I'm from Oklahoma, shut up. Scotty, he derailed agency plans to ban chlorpyrifos. He wanted to provide regulatory certainty to the thousands of American farms that rely on chlorpyrifos while still protecting human health and the environment. Yeah, right. Scotty worries over regulatory uncertainty. There's not a lot of ambiguity in the word banned. People who work on farms are humans. Chlorpyrifos is making them sick. Scotty, if you cared about protecting human health, you wouldn't have allowed them to involuntarily ingest poison. It ain't no poison. I'm Scotty. I'm from Oklahoma. And I'm Secretary of the EPA. What do you think of that? The Bakersfield incident, what time we're getting to have there? 7:58 p.m. Spraying of noxious chemical on farm raises individual liberty issues. Don Andrews, his workers were poisoned. He doesn't use chlorpyrifos. His employees were exposed to something a neighbor sprayed and couldn't stop from drifting into other people's properties. That's why the armies don't really like using gas warfare. Sometimes it blows back on you. Oops. You know. Hi. I know these guys. I don't know them, but I know the mentality. It's your own fault you were downwind. All righty. Andrews even had to shut down his cabbage harvest. Sick, this is Dan Andrews, the neighbor. Sick employees, work disruptions. How does this situation provide certainty for farmers? Good point. Spraying. Oh, that's real particular. That's why it's usually done just in the early mornings. It's got to be still. Oh, man, it's got to be still. You don't want no wind. It's got to be still. And usually this time of year when it's still down in Kern County, it means it's hot. It's baking. And that air, you get the dust willies, That's when you get the dust willies, when the air is still and just gets hotter and hotter, and that hot air just wants to go up. It just shoots up and starts twirling its way up. All righty. David Bernhardt. It is 8 p.m. You are webtuned to thevoiceofstockton.org. This is Connections for a Saturday night news special unto you. And it's the June-July edition. We got a lot of good articles here. I'm sharing them with you. And it's about the last one we'll do because I like to say some good words about some other things too. And he's a lawyer and a lobbyist, and he just went into the number 2 post at the U.S. Department of Interior. Oh, he's represented oil and gas interests and mining companies, some of whom have done business before the Interior Department. Oh, his firm sued the department 4 times on behalf of one client. And with Bernhardt himself handling the oral argument in one of the appeals. He's also represented a company seeking to build a pipeline across federal land managed by the Department of the Interior. And a portion of the firm's legal fees were paid in the form of the company's stock. Oh, and he still owns that. Mr. Bernhardt has promised to recuse himself for a time from issues which a conflict might arise, but the notion that he could be faithful when they come up a little fanciful. Now, Jared Huffman said it would be hard to find anyone in the United States that is more conflicted and disqualified for this job than Mr. Bernhardt. El Donaldo nominated Jeffrey Rosen as Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation. Now, he's represented interest in challenging the Environmental Protection Agency tailpipe emissions rules. As General Counsel for Office and Management of Budget during the George Walker Bush administration, and he tried to free federal agencies from their obligation to limit carbon pollution. And Mr. Trump is expected to nominate conservative radio host Sam Clovis for the top scientist position at the Department of Agriculture. No, Sammy's not a scientist. And talking dirty. Scotty Pruitt was on Fox and Friends, said President Obama had neglected in cleaning up the nation's toxic waste sites and claimed that President Trump would cut down on more than 1,300 Superfund sites waiting remediation. Why doesn't Mr. Pruitt... Oh, he failed to clean them up. To heck with it. We're not going to try at all. That's what he did. The chief failed to mention Trumpy's budget proposal attempted to cut the Superfund budget. It provides funding for the cleanups by 31%. So those weren't cut. He did insist that many of the remediations will be paid for by the private companies that polluted the sites, ignoring the fact that many of the Superfund delays exist because the polluters are no longer in business. Mr. Pruitt was appearing on Fox and Friends. Interviewers either hadn't done their homework, they didn't want to annoy him, or, they didn't bring up any facts and figures on that. Now, Scotty drew a distinction between President Obama, who talked a lot, and Mr. Trump, who's a doer, despite the fact the Trump administration has yet to clean up a single toxic waste site. Now, Trump's budget proposal attempted to cut the Superfund budget, which provides funding for the cleanups, by 31%. So that, like the other, might not have been cut all that much, and I doubt that it was. So, all righty, we have 8:05 p.m. here at the Voice of Stockton, and I would like to put in a word about our sponsors. We have wonderful sponsors. You can be one too, and we got Habitat for Humanity Restore, where you can buy architectural accoutrements, building supplies, building materials such as wallboard, plywood, windows, doors, hardware, vaults, fuse boxes, you name it. 4933 West Lane, 100 yards south of West Lane and March Lane. That's Habitat for Humanity Restore. We bake fresh daily, tender donuts, 1304 East Hammer Lane, number 15. Sweet 15 for 15 donuts. Yeah, open 7 days a week. 4:30 they open on Monday through Saturday, 5:30 on Sundays, and they're open till 6 p.m., 12 hours a day plus. Custom Plastics and Signs, 326 East Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard in Stockton. Graphics for your car, all kinds of tubes, sheets, plastic. You can get things made out of plastic, amazing plastic. Hotel Furniture Liquidators, they're at 1648 North Shaw Road. Get furniture for the family, for your home, at Hotel Furniture Liquidators, 1648 North Shaw Road. And Millennium Computer Repair, Sarfraz Khan, give them a call, 922-1879. Yeah, give Sarfraz a call. Leaders T-shirts, printing, Garfield and Lodi Avenue in Lodi. There you got it. You can be a sponsor too. Come on down. Any small business in Stockton, liquor stores, drive-ins, you name it. I'd love to have, cheer about 20 liquor stores around town, And that's the nicest things to have in a neighborhood. I like them. I can go buy beer. And so, I'd like to stand up for, I'm reaching out to you. I've called you. I might be calling back. So, come on down, be a sponsor for thevoiceofstockton.org. Saturday Evening News, brought to you by our wonderful sponsors here at the Voice of Stockton. This has been Richard Slezak bringing it to you. Thank you, writers of Connections and the editors. They're a wonderful crew. We'll be back next Saturday night for more news for you. Have a good Saturday evening. Bam. All righty, folks. That ends the recorded portion of the Saturday Evening News. And what I'm going to bipple, bam, heck, Red Booth, logged out. I'm going to just go back here. Wait a minute. Going to go to Google, and I'm going to bring your weather report. And boop, 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 boop. There we go, weather.gov, weather.gov, weather.gov. Yeah, we know to go to weather.gov. Why, we can quote it. Oh my, California's beautiful. It's got pink and orange on it. Numerous counties are pink and orange. What does pink and orange mean? Probably that it's hot. That could be a high wind warning, heat advisory. Yep, the whole Central Valley, except for San Joaquin County, amazing, is under a heat advisory. Now, out on the South Coast, small craft advisory for hazardous seas, and that heat advisory goes down along the South Coast from Santa Barbara on down. Orange County, the County of the Fallen Angel, and then we got a beautiful purple. That's excessive heat warning for the California deserts, Clark County, St. George, Utah, and Yuma all the way over to Phoenix. So it's hot and warmy. Oh my God. There's a red flag warning in Alaska? I'm not kidding. Up in Alaska, there's a red flag warning. It's along the Yukon border, kind of a bear's head shape going towards Fairbanks. Love America. Yeah, great. There's no global warming because there's no global warming. Cornel slack and dingle dart. Fucking moron. Oh, man. No. There is. You know, that's why we got to be concerned with the carbon emissions. So let's get a little bit of, get your weather customized. And we're going to go to Stockton. Let's see, Dachicama, CA, and boop, 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 boop. Now, boop, boop. Oh, well, this is goofy. Wow. I'm going to go to a different one up here, since I got plenty of time now. N, comma, dot, CA. This will get me the whole page. Bipple. Bam. Oh yeah, baby. Last update was just a few minutes ago at 7:55. And we're looking at 86 degrees. It's fair. It's going to be clear this evening with a low of 64. Tomorrow's high is going to be 94. Tomorrow night, low of 62. Monday, high of 91 and sunny. It's not going to be sunny at night. It's going to be clear. Monday night, 61. Tuesday, a high of 89 for Stockton. Current barometer is 29.83 inches of mercury. 1,010 millibars. Wind is out of the west at 13 miles per hour, and humidity is a pleasant 39%. Thus, the heat index is actually a hair lower at 85. Tuesday, we're looking at a sunny day with a high of 89. Tuesday night, it's going to be clear and low of 59. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 92. And Wednesday night, it's only going to cool by 30 degrees to 62 degrees here in the valley, the big valley. So with that, let's get some Gwen Stefani up, and it's always a pleasure being with you this Saturday evening. And let's push the button proper. There we go.